Now, moving on, Israelis preparing today for the International Day for Disabled Persons, which was first proclaimed by the United Nations in 1992 in order to promote understanding of disability-related issues and to mobilize support for the dignity, rights, and well-being of persons with disabilities. But now, among the Israeli organizations entirely dedicated to this mission is Beit Issie Shapiro, the nonprofit working to ensure that every person with disabilities will be entitled to full equal rights and will be actively included in community life. Joining us with more is Executive Director of Beit Issie Shapiro, Ahmir Lerner. Ahmir, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, so first of all, how do you see the United Nations International Day of Persons with Disabilities?
Well, of course, this day is really the day that our mission is all about all the time. And we deal with this not just on this day, but every day, trying to create that inclusive society with equal rights and opportunities for people with disabilities. And this day is important because it puts that focus, not only for Beit Issie, but for everybody in the world, to put an emphasis on this and to create this and to abide by what we've all signed on to have that type of society for everyone.
Now, the UN this year is calling for paying special attention towards creating a disability-inclusive COVID response. What's your position on inclusion, especially in terms of how it can be factored into efforts of bringing people together, despite social distancing rules and other restrictions?
Well, I think like everything, we see also the difficulties and the advantages of this new situation that we're in. Yes, COVID has increased the levels of loneliness and access to correct and good health care for people with disabilities has become much more difficult, and that requires a lot of emphasis by all governments and all societies in order to enable people with disabilities to have all the rights and all the access they need. It has also opened new possibilities for social connection, like we're having now through Zoom. And just to make sure that all of these opportunities are fully accessible and fully inclusive is also something that technology companies and governments should be aware of at all times. So really, we can all be involved together in the same society and all be engaged with each other.
So what exactly does Beit Issie Shapiro do on the day-to-day? How do you set up your clients for success in the broader society?
Well, Beit Issie Shapiro is been around for 41 years, and we're a pioneering leader and innovator in the field of disabilities. And all the innovations that we do are all focused on creating a more inclusive society with equal rights and opportunities for people with disabilities. And we do this in a very special way because we have continuous dialogue with people with disabilities and their families and caregivers through a wide variety of services that we provide. And in that way, we can always identify what's the next thing that has to be done. What's the newest innovation, the next thing that we can do that will bring our mission closer to being fulfilled. And once we locate this new gap, then we innovate a new solution, create a new model, we research it, and we make sure that its results are evidence-based so we can actually prove that it works. And once we have a new model, a new service with evidence that shows that it works, then we'll scale it up throughout Israel, but also internationally. And the work with the UN has helped us in that a lot. We work on legislation, we work on training. We've trained tens of thousands of people around the world, and we impact over 500,000 people a year using this strategy of innovating, researching, and then scaling.
And so do you have maybe an interesting or particularly noteworthy success story that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I'll give you an example which is happening right now. We opened the first early intervention center in Israel 30 years ago. And through that, we've become world leaders in the area of early intervention and infants with disabilities. And a few years back, about 3 years ago, we realized that we're giving a whole basket of therapies to these infants, except for emotional therapy. And so we said, okay, let's see what's the best practice now in the world of emotional therapy for infants with disabilities, and then we'll integrate it into Beit Issie Shapiro. And we realized there is no such thing around the world. So we innovated a new model of emotional therapy, which we've been practicing for the past 2 years at Beit Issie Shapiro, emotional therapy for infants ages 6 months to 3 years old. And we created evaluation tools for before and after, so we can actually research this and show that it works. We're collecting data now for the second year. Next year, we'll start publishing this data in conferences around the world. And we'll also start working with government. So this will be included in what's financed not only for the children at Beit Issie Shapiro, but for children at all the early intervention centers throughout Israel. And that is exactly the way we innovate a new model of emotional therapy in this case. We research it, make sure that it works, and then we scale it up. And we'll also start instructing emotional therapists throughout Israel in the methodology that we've developed here.
All right, and finally, any special messages that maybe you want to relay to our viewers on this important day?
Yeah, I think on days like this, many of us are looking at the perspective of people with disabilities and how we have to help them work in order for them to have equal rights. But I think this is only a matter of equal rights for people with disabilities. It's also a matter of looking at the perspective from society and what we as society are losing out of when people with disabilities do not have these rights and opportunities. And where can we gain more from that? And that makes us obliged to make sure that everybody in society has equal rights and opportunities.
All right, Ahmir Lerner, Executive Director for Beit Issie Shapiro, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.